Tonight, the long road to recovery as the remaining Israeli hostages reunite with family. A battle remains. A look back at the mission to bring them home and the journey ahead after years in Hamas captivity.
Plus, from bustling historic sites.
As you can see right now, where are all the people?
To empty tours, the work to make Israel a travel destination after years of war.
And remembering Charlie Kirk. Faith leaders meet at the U.S. Capitol to honor the late conservative activist and continue his fight for free speech.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
A major test for the Gaza ceasefire deal as Israel calls for the release of more deceased hostages. Good evening, I'm John Jessup.
And in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. The historic dawn of a new Middle East. That is how President Trump is describing the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. He returned overnight from Egypt after celebrating the Gaza peace deal and safe return of all 20 living hostages with other world leaders.
That's right. Attention now turns to the next phase, which includes disarming Hamas, rebuilding Gaza, and laying the foundation for a lasting peace throughout the region. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke has been following it all. Caitlin, what do we know about the next steps?
John, Jenna, while details are still coming together, President Trump says phase 2 is already underway. Although it centers on rebuilding Gaza and disarming Hamas, the terror group has yet to agree on those points.
I'm talking about rebuilding Gaza. I'm not talking about single state or double state or two state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
What's the road ahead for governing Gaza? Because
a lot of people like the one-state solution. Some people like the two-state solutions. We'll have to see.
Meanwhile, as part of the first phase of the ceasefire agreement, Hamas agreed to release not only the 20 remaining living hostages, but also the bodies of the deceased. Hamas arguing it may take some time because not all of the hostages' burial sites are known. Inside Gaza, Hamas has already taken over areas the IDF has pulled out of and is publicly executing those who oppose their rule or are accused of collaborating with Israel. President Trump saying he's given the terror group approval to rearm and serve as a Palestinian police force for a period of time. He expressed confidence that after 3,000 years of conflict, this peace will hold.
This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God.
Still, others warn there are many challenges yet to overcome, and the ceasefire remains fragile. Just this morning, 5 Palestinians were killed by IDF forces after they allegedly crossed the boundary established by the ceasefire.
We're probably going to hear of more incidents every day or routinely like this. Whether it derails the whole peace plan, though, I don't think that'll happen.
In Israel, celebrations continue over the return of the remaining hostages who survived 2 years in captivity. Last week on the 700 Club, while Hamas was still negotiating, Gordon Robertson spoke with Lachey Moran Levy, wife of former hostage Omri Moran. He asked if she had hope she'd see her husband come home soon.
I know that it's not over until it's not over, but like I say before, I always have my hope to see Omri again.
We'll join with you in a prayer to Hashem that once again you'll hear the cry, Abba, Abba, from your 2 little girls, and once again you'll see that smile in his eyes.
Monday, those prayers were answered as Omri and his family were reunited. According to UN officials, leaders from European and Arab nations, along with Canada and the U.S., have agreed to contribute to the estimated $70 billion needed to rebuild Gaza. John, Jenna.
All right, Caitlin, thank you. The International Committee of the Red Cross is on the ground undergoing a complicated mission to bring the remaining deceased hostages out of Gaza and back into Israel.
Well, for more on that work, we're joined by Fabrizio Carboni, head of the ICRC's delegation to the United States and Canada. Fabrizio, thank you for coming back to Faith Nation. You know, one of the biggest tests in the ceasefire already has been and continues to be the return of the deceased hostages, which is happening slower than expected. What can you tell us about those efforts and the challenges the ICRC faces in facilitating their return?
I mean, first, I would like really to insist how important it is to bring back the mortal remain of the people deceased in Gaza to their family. And I want to insist on this dimension because it's not just a point in a peace agreement. It's something very important for the families, because if you don't have the mortal remain and the body, you can't grieve, and more importantly, you don't know, and you stay in a situation of ambiguous loss, and it's a permanent state of torture. So first, it's really important. Second, it's the level of destruction in Gaza, the number of unexploded ordnance, the level of chaos prevailing over the last weeks, months, makes the work slower than expected. And we will have to be patient, resilient, and continue this relentless work of finding all the mortal remains and bringing them back to the family with dignity.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about the living hostages who've been brought home, we saw those emotional scenes yesterday as they were reunited with their families. We know that ICRC, they can't, you can't speak to individual cases per se, but more broadly, what kind of support do people typically need after being held like that in captivity for so long? And how do your teams help families and survivors begin that recovery process?
I mean, first, the work starts the moment they get into an ICRC car in Gaza. We have always doctor with us because we never know in which state people will be handed over. So since the beginning, we follow with medical staff the hostages, and then they are transferred to the Israeli authorities. Our experience is that the Israeli authority is very well organized and prepared, even if we know that the process for hostages and families, because I think we often underestimate the trauma and the pain of families waiting, it's taken care of, but it's a long process, and it's a patient process. It's a process, once the camera won't follow anymore this issue, they will still need some support and some help. So we're confident that in Israel there are the resources, even if there were very painful instances where some hostages release couldn't overcome the pain and the trauma of their ordeal. But we still, knowing the capacity of the Israeli authorities and the civil society in Israel, we're quite confident that the needed support will be provided, and especially the psychological support.
Real quickly, we just have a few seconds left. I have to imagine, you talk about the trauma for the hostage families and the emotions. I wonder the emotions that exist for you and your teams as you're bringing these hostages back and the remains to their loved ones in just the few seconds we have left.
Look, it's always a mixed feeling. It's happy for what's happening for the people in front of us, being the Israeli hostages, the Palestinian families, and at the very same time, we're already thinking about what's next, what still needs to be done, and this is probably the message from a humanitarian perspective. It's going to be a long process. Right. There will be ups and downs, but we need to stay absolutely focused on the needs of people.
Yeah. All right, Fabrizio Carboni with the International Committee of the Red Cross, thank you so much for all that you all do and for being here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Fabrizio. The Gaza ceasefire is fueling hope of reviving Israel's tourism industry, which has been decimated by the 2-year-long war.
Yeah, the number of visitors to Israel is at historic lows, and it's actually costing the country billions of dollars. CBN's Paul Petit reports from Jerusalem.
These days, the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem is empty in more ways than one.
Tourism is essentially not a functioning industry anymore.
CBN News spoke to Israeli tour guide Yuri Goldflam just outside the Upper Room, the traditional location of Jesus' Last Supper. It's void of visitors as well.
Used to be a 6th largest export industry in Israel, and today it doesn't exist as an industry. It's not a viable industry. There are not enough tourists to come to fill calendars.
It's been a brutal 1-2 punch for the country's tourism industry. First came the pandemic of 2020, then just months after it ended in May of 2023 came the Hamas terrorist attack of October 7.
As you can see right now, where are all the people?
Yehuda Deutsch describes what the City of David tours used to look like.
It could hold 200-300 people, and that means multiple groups would be seated, and you would see a few guides. And right now, if you look over the railing, you'll just see nothing. There's no one there.
It's no different at the Garden of Gethsemane. According to the Israel Ministry of Tourism, the country is suffering record losses. Tourism has plummeted by almost 70% since the war in Gaza. That's 3.5 million fewer visitors than the record year of 2019. It adds up to a $3.4 billion loss, with hotel occupancy at historic lows in some areas. Merchants like Yudi Miriaz describes the impact in Jerusalem's Old City.
You see the street is empty right now, and it was more or less for the last 2 years, a bit, sometimes a few more days. It's most of the time it's me, and there's a stray cat to come to stay with me.
While Yudi is still painting, tourism facilities and hotels have either reduced operations or temporarily closed their doors. Yehuda says he's fortunate to still be employed.
I'll say two things that I have pain when I say it, but because it hurts. A lot of people had to change their profession. Many people left the tour guiding business, went into other fields. I'm familiar with a lot of people who went into financial difficulties and affected their lives harshly.
I have to say that I'm lucky. I'm lucky and I'm blessed.
In order to stay afloat, Yuri had to reinvent himself. In addition to making online videos and tour apps, he travels to the United States and speaks at churches about Israel history, the war in Gaza, October 7th, an Israeli one-man PR firm battling against many of the false accusations about what's happening here. Yuri's speaking engagements in the U.S. extend to civic and business groups, synagogues, and state legislatures. He plans to return to the U.S. soon.
Most people don't know where the Gaza Strip is. They couldn't find the West Bank on a map.
Yuri and Yehuda say misconceptions around geography here contributes to the lack of visitors. Jerusalem is a good 90-minute drive to the Gaza Strip.
It's what you see on the news is in a very specific area. It is completely irrelevant to the rest of the country.
The silver lining is that all these sites that are usually very, very crowded are now empty. So if you do want to come, and you do want to travel to Israel, and Israel's safe. I mean, you walk around here, and people walk around Israel. My kids go to school, kids go walk around, it's fine. Israel is safe to visit, and if you do want to come, you will enjoy all the popular tourist sites without any lines or any crowds. It's quite wonderful.
Now there's new hope with the ceasefire pausing 2 years of war. Still, the tourism industry is prepared for a long uphill recovery. Yudi isn't concerned as he repeats his answer when often asked how slow tourism here has been. In Jerusalem, Paul Petit, CBN News.
Thank you, Paul. Faith leaders celebrate the life of Charlie Kirk. See how next.
Welcome back. Well, it has been just over a month since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Today would have been his 32nd birthday, and as such, President Trump posthumously awarded him the Medal of Freedom. This is America's highest civilian honor.
Well, at the U.S. Capitol, faith leaders marked the day, too, meeting for a National Day of Remembrance. And that's where we find CBN's Michelle London, who covered the celebration and joins us now with more. London.
Yes, good evening to you. Yeah, quite a moving event earlier as organizer Reverend Patrick Mahoney of the Christian Defense Coalition tells me few in our country showed more commitment to exercising First Amendment rights than Charlie Kirk.
Charlie was counterintuitive to everything. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about issues. Yet people are hungry for answers. Charlie demonstrated that there's a spiritual awakening going on in America, and especially among young men. And he fearlessly and courageously went into that public space to share the gospel of Christ, to offer hope, and to talk about critical issues that concern all of us.
And earlier on those steps, Mahoney, his wife Katie, and other faith leaders held signs reading, "Remember Charlie Kirk," and "Practice free speech." Mahoney explained that today's demonstration is a call to action for the church to move beyond its four walls and into the public square, engaging more with the community. Just as Kirk visited college campuses and other places no one expected him to go. Mahoney is also challenging pastors to address tough issues from the pulpit.
It isn't the people want to hear. People have questions about many of these challenging issues that face the country, and we believe that God's vehicle for transformation is the church. So I would encourage pastors on this day to take great inspiration from the work of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, and guys, another memorable moment from today came when a group of Christian school students who were wearing a Charlie Kirk Freedom shirts walked by on a separate tour. Their faces lit up when they saw the Charlie Kirk banners, and they ran on the steps to take pictures with Mahoney. It was really a moving moment to witness the connection they were obviously feeling there on those steps. The location of celebration also held a significant moment for Mahoney, who recalled being arrested back in 2021 on those very steps for praying. 3 years later, Mahoney says he won a federal lawsuit that opened the Capitol steps to free speech and First Amendment activities. John, Jenna.
Thanks, London. I'm sure for those kids, they felt like they were at the right place at the right time.
They did.
Well, in other news, the man charged with firebombing the Pennsylvania governor's mansion back in April pleaded guilty to attempted murder, terrorism, and other charges. Cody Balmer was sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison for the arson attack. Governor Josh Shapiro, speaking after the sentencing, again raised concerns about political violence in America.
It's hard for me to stand before you today and utter the words attempted murder when it's your own life, to know that someone tried to kill me. It's especially hard to know that he tried to burn our family to death while we slept.
The attack happened hours after Governor Shapiro and his family celebrated the Jewish holiday of Passover. Balmer broke into the residence and later told police he planned to beat the governor with a sledgehammer. Shapiro's family escaped the blaze, fortunately unharmed.
Up next, a harsh reality, the disturbing warning from experts for kids and virtual reality. Right after this. Instagram is making some big changes to protect teens online. The platform is adding new rules that follow PG-13 movie standards. It won't recommend posts with strong language, risky stunts, or content that promotes harmful behavior, including posts showing marijuana. Parents will also get more control. They can now turn on extra filters to block more content from their teens' accounts. These changes started rolling out today in the U.S., Canada, and Australia.
Well, if you're a parent, you're also going to want to know about this, a new warning about virtual reality headsets and the potential dangers to teens and preteens who use them.
Yeah, research shows most parents are not aware that strangers can actually interact with their children who use this tech. CBN's Lori Johnson has more.
Virtual reality involves strapping a headset to the face so the person wearing it can no longer see or hear the real world. This totally immersive experience can often feel more authentic than anything on a TV, laptop, or phone. Users often create an avatar or character that interacts with others operated by people they often don't know. These avatars can speak in a disguised voice, corner, and touch other players. Meta is deeply involved in virtual reality, and 2 former employees recently testified at a Senate hearing about the company's research into the risks of this alternative reality.
I quickly became aware that it is not uncommon for children in VR to experience bullying, sexual assault, to be solicited for nude photographs and sexual acts by pedophiles, and to be regularly exposed to mature content like gambling and violence, and to participate in adult experiences like strip clubs and watching pornography with strangers.
There will also be instances that we have seen of where you can hear people sexually pleasuring themselves transmitted over audio in a spatial sense as you are being surrounded and brigaded and being harassed. So it's not just simple statements, it is actually the transmission of the motion and the audio of sex acts itself.
And so that is what causes children to have the physiological and psychological response as if it were happening to them in the real world.
Yes, exactly. Visually and auditorily, it feels real.
These whistleblowers accused Meta of suppressing studies into the extent VR can harm teenagers and kids even younger.
When my colleagues' research showed the emotional impact of children being threatened by physical harm by strangers online, Meta not only restricted internal sharing, but manipulated reports to obscure any emotional damage.
Experts explain why this age group is especially vulnerable.
Their prefrontal cortexes of their brains are not fully developed yet. They're immersed in this new world.
Online safety advocate Donna Rice Hughes, president and CEO of Enough is Enough, advises parents to warn their children about this modern-day stranger danger.
The thing is, you have to teach your kids that you cannot recognize a disguised predator. They pretend to be somebody that they're not.
She adds technology companies need to implement safeguards, which is why Hughes supports the Kids Online Safety Act.
It basically will hold these platforms accountable, that they have got to mitigate harm to kids.
The bill is currently in the Senate.
Meta has hired armies of lawyers and lobbyists, spent millions of dollars to kill the Kids Online Safety Act. It's dangerous for their business model, even if their practices are dangerous to kids.
The legislation would protect minors' data, provide tools for parents, and make it easier to report harm. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Finally tonight, a Halloween inflatable sent Cleveland police on a wild goose chase.
It's right. It all started after police received phone calls about an orange object that was on the loose. Police officers from Parma Heights Police Department arrived on the scene to find what turned out to be a giant inflatable pumpkin. That's body camera footage that you're seeing right there. It shows officers pursuing the pumpkin as it rolled through the windy streets. The officers were finally able to apprehend the elusive suspect, but struggled to deflate it. It took a little while and a little teamwork, but they managed to squeeze the giant pumpkin into the back of a police car. A statement from the department says the pumpkin was briefly detained, but eventually returned to its home, where it is now back on display. They saved Halloween.
They did. You know, the body cam footage makes it look so dramatic, like it's an arrest or...
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Perfect for Halloween.
Kudos to Madison for writing a great kicker.
She does a great job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Madison. And thank you for joining us tonight.
We hope to see you right back again here tomorrow. Good night.